BSOCA.
BSOCA. For me, growing up as a young black man in Miami, and oftentimes when you are a young black man in Miami specifically, there are a lot of negative influences. Being, for lack of a better term, a thug or a roughneck was not who I was. It wasn't who my father raised me to be. It wasn't that I was called to be.
Romance is dead, is what they said while sitting around cheating at pool.
I remember watching the movie Love Jones, and it literally kind of like changed my life because I found poetry, but poetry in a way that was appealing to someone who grew up in an urban context. So when I started writing poetry, it just opened a whole new world for me. It made me realize that I have to give to the world something greater than myself, or that the world rather is greater than who I am. And I felt poetry was the window to do that.
I identify primarily as a poet. I've been a poet since I'm 12 years old. The first poem was about boys, of course. It had terrible rhythm and meter, but it rhymed. And I like visual arts, and the visual arts sort of play into the poetry. And I love going to art museums. I think I've visited every art museum in every city I've been to. All of that visual and sensory stimulation finds its way into my poetry.
You are black gold, black gold.
Esperanza Spalding is this amazing artist who is both an instrumentalist and a singer. She's this awesome combination of beauty inside and out. And I love her mindset. Her mindset is a very collaborative mindset, and I'm actually applying that concept in the classroom of being collaborative. All my students are recognizing that we are a group, we are one. We may not always agree because history could be a controversial subject, but as long as we are one on the mindset that our goal is to be a class that impacts the world. So literally every class, I write hashtag impact the world on the board to remind us what our mission is. And I see that in Esperanza's music.
Blues, actually. Blues is one of my favorite genres of music.
This is the end. Hold your breath and count to 10.
I love Adele. I like anybody with a bluesy voice, or jazzy voice. Skyfall. I love the plaintive sounds in Skyfall. I think it's really great.
It is the very foundation of what I do. Because what I realize is oftentimes students will like you as a professor based upon your communication skills. With me having a background of spoken word poetry, I have a very clear understanding of how to communicate. When does the tone of my voice need to rise? When does it need to lower? When do I need to stop for pause? How to incorporate humor. So I use a lot of what I do in the arts and in poetry, and even the nonverbal communication. So the arts really have shaped my classroom.
I am always notifying my students and friends of plays, musicals, films that are especially good. I really believe that art enhances your life. I believe the arts round you out as a person and make you appreciate things, even if you don't understand what you're looking at.
There are two books that I automatically think of. One is the autobiography of Malcolm X. He just came from the bottom. He had an extremely tough life, but when he recognized his brilliance, and his brilliance was always there, for Malcolm to have the life that he experienced and for him to become the great person that he was amazing for me.
Henderson, the Rain King by Saul Bellow had an influence on me. The mind is the artist of the body, and that really influenced the way I thought and saw myself. It told me that I could reshape my life, that I could make myself into something I wanted to be rather than something I was. And it changed the course of my destiny. I became something different.
The Alchemist rocked my world. It is the very foundation of what I do from this standpoint. The Alchemist for me says, you need to do whatever it takes to realize your goal, but that your goal will always require a journey and will always require a process. But no matter what the process is, the goal will be worth it. It's impossible to visualize because a world without art is non-existent, because the greatest painting, in my opinion, is the sunrise.
Bland, colorless, quiet. I don't think I could live in a world without art.
I'm reminded of the fact that in the New Deal, in the midst of America collectively being broke, make sure there's a play and some poetry and some cinema, because without it, our very being is just dull. So art is not something we want. Art is something that we need.